Hello, beautiful people. KK has a lot to say, is back, and first off, I'd like to say I hope that I did not offend anyone with my video yesterday regarding Summer Wells and the content that is out there regarding the case. Today actually marks a year exactly since I started this channel, and while I only have 20 subscribers, I think yesterday I made the mistake of saying 40. You've got to start somewhere, right? And yeah, I'm okay with that. I think the video only got 20 views, but that's 20 people who saw the video. I do honestly think that everyone means well. I don't think anyone has bad intentions. We're mothers, we're fathers, we're sisters, brothers. We all have people in our lives. So naturally, when something horrible goes on in this world and becomes nationwide news, we come together as a community, as almost like a family, and we want to get to the bottom of it. Of course, no one wants to see a 5-year-old little girl missing, and we want to get to the bottom of it, and the number one goal is to get her home safely. Yes, along the way there's going to be questions and there's going to be accusations, and I think my whole point of yesterday's video was the getting off track, the speculation. That, yes, that's going to be with any case, but I think I went a little too far, and things that I tend to forget, and obviously I'm new to this and maybe I should keep better notes or get more organized. One of the things that I forgot is that, someone who came on here, and whether or not they really are psychic and really do remote viewing, I don't know. But it got into this whole thing where Summer was running from her mother, and her mom had gotten into the car, and Summer was like running for her life, and it just went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And while this person said she couldn't use this as fact, and this was only for entertainment purposes, and I know obviously YouTubers, creators, content creators have to put that out there for legal reasons, just as I have to put this out here. I don't know anything that I'm saying right now cannot be used as fact. I am simply putting this out here for someone to view, me giving my opinion. I get it. But I just think that unless it's heard by law enforcement, and things are proven to be true, all this information put out there is just, I don't know, it takes away from the case, and it goes down a big, huge rabbit hole. And in the end, right now, a lot is being placed on the parents. I've got my opinions, but in the end, if it's not true, are you going to feel, it's pretty horrible to blame somebody. Imagine being accused. Imagine, just put yourself in their shoes for a second. And I'm not saying it's not the case. But just put yourself in their shoes for a second. That's all I'm saying. And I also want to point out, there are so many cases. So many cases. I am such a true crime buff. Casey Anthony, for one. Allegedly, she was not guilty. So she was put in front of a jury of her peers, right? They could not charge her guilty. They did not have enough evidence to prove that she was, in fact, negligent or responsible for her daughter's death. And the last time that little girl was seen alive, believe it or not, was June 15th. Oddly enough, that was coincidental. Same with Summer. Not that has anything to do with this case. wasn't reported for 30 days, and then she wasn't even found until, I believe, August 11th or the 12th. But she was found. And to this day, we really don't know what happened. Do we know? I think we have a pretty good idea. But we don't have concrete evidence. We don't. Some would disagree with that. However, she's not behind bars. We also have the Delphi girls. It's going on 4 years. We've got 2 sketches. We've got times. We've got a couple witnesses. Well, people who were on the bridge during that day. A video of the suspect, the potential person of interest. We still don't have someone in custody. I mean, these things go on and on and on. Kira Coles, although she's an adult, this was, 2 years ago? Maybe a year and a half. She was pregnant. Clearly, if she was alive, she's had this baby, so now it would be her and this baby missing. Who's held responsible? It even came out that her mother had said that the footage that the media was putting out, allegedly mom said that law enforcement was making her go along with their agenda, that the person, I don't know if everyone's familiar with this case who's going to see this video, that in fact that was her daughter walking past her own vehicle in her postal uniform, and a couple of years later mom comes out of her silence and says, that was never my daughter. And we have no idea where she is, and to this day they've still never questioned her child's father, and he gets up and he gets to move away. So there's so many of these cases. So yeah, let's just keep in mind that not all of the time cases are solved. Most of the time they're not. If you do your research, a lot of the times cases go cold, and although they're never shut, and not that I want to be pessimistic about this, I'd really like to see some closure. And gosh, would I love to see this little girl come home. I mean, if the conditions of the home and the family are what is being said, the speculation, I should say, of what goes on, with some interventions in place, I would love to see this little girl come home and her and her brothers, be in a safe environment. However, those boys are still with the family. And someone had commented on a video, which I'm going to talk about right now, that those boys would be taken away if the parents were persons of interest. And that's not necessarily true. But if the family's house was as disgusting as they say it is, and there was rats, and they were abused. Now, let me take a step back, because I do work in the field, and I can tell you that there is a very flawed system. CPS, DCS, DCFS, whatever you call it in the state that you work or live in, kids slip through the cracks. What you may think is clean, what I may consider clean, doesn't necessarily match up with other people. So, in other words, if I was a CPS worker and I came into your home and I felt that your house was dirty, unless there's literally roaches in your food and rats in your kid's bed, I just can't I can't get a judge to take your kids away. I can make a plan with you and how to, give you the resources and how to clean your home, and continue to try to help you. But as far as cleanliness goes, as long as your kids are fed and clothed, cleanliness is a very touchy situation when it comes to Child Protective Services. And apparently, this family, according to certain people, has had CPS in their life. And again, you can it is your right to deny letting CPS into your home. A lot of people don't know that, so I'm not sure if that's been the case. But given that Summer is missing now, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be closely looking at this family and really, talking to these boys. But if the boys, are saying that nothing's going on, because ultimately they, and they're good at their jobs. They can tell when they're being deceived, especially by little kids. So let's just keep that in mind too. But I'm getting off topic. So what this is really about is yesterday, again, the podcast Unmasked had David. Is it David Dotson? Yeah, David Dotson. So he's a close friend of Candus and Don Wells. I found out in this interview that he's actually a mortician and was a former paramedic, but I'm unclear as if he's a pastor now or if he's just another member of a church. So I don't want to put false information out there about that. But interestingly enough, he really contradicted a lot of things that Allison, the 15-year-old's mother, said in the first interview I watched, number one. And two, he kind of flip-flopped on some things that he said during the interview, which, nerves can do that. Some people would say he was lying. I don't know if that was necessarily the case through the interview. But, boy, and I wrote it down, and I have some quotes. So first off, something that I don't know that is really known, because I think in the first interview with Allison, that red truck. So the red truck that everyone is talking about, and this is probably already out there on YouTube, and no one's going to come to this little itty-bitty channel to see about it. So according to David Dotson, the red truck that the police are asking whoever owns this red truck, I don't remember if it was a Tacoma, a Ford, whatever it may be, according to David Dotson, and not that law enforcement told him this, but now Candus and Donald have given him this information, and everything that I'm going to say in this video has come from Candus and Don. So all the information that he's given through this interview has come from either his personal experience on the day that Summer has gone missing, prior to Summer going missing, or from what he was told just from the family. He has not talked to law enforcement except for, why he was there that night, because Candus had called him, and I forget the woman's name, but, in the interview, the woman that Donald and her spoke of, that Summer had a really good relationship with the beautiful woman in the church. So anyway, the red truck, apparently, who law enforcement says is not a person of interest, but rather a potential witness. Donald claims the truck was found, according to Candus and Donald, was found with either changed license plates, don't quote me, changed license plate or no license plate, and belonged to a neighbor who has a prior record of being a sex offender. Now, I had heard that Candus and Donald lived closely to a sex offender, and that is what Allison, the 15-year-old boy that was with her that day when they went to the swimming hole, said that she couldn't speak upon because that was a part of their interrogation. So, according to David Dotson, the red truck's dealing with this case is because when they apparently found it somewhere, I don't exactly know where, he didn't get into detail, but it was found with either a changed license plate that didn't match up with, the truck's owner, and it belonged to the neighbor of Candus and Donald, and he has prior record of abusing a child and something to do with being a sex offender. Okay, so that was news to me, and I don't know if that's come out in any news, because at this point, when I try to research anything on Summer, law enforcement and media have been pretty quiet, and last I heard, until there was a significant change in the case, there were not going to be any more news conferences. So I guess we are just going to be depending on any kind of interviews or groundbreaking updates, right? So that was news to me, and I do not know the truth, obviously, behind it, and I am just relaying what was said in this interview. Secondly, I thought this was very interesting, and I'm kind of shocked that there wasn't more questions, because when Allison was being interviewed by these ladies on Unmasked, there was a lot of questions coming in from the audience, and you could see them popping across the screen, but this wasn't happening during this interview at this time. And at one point, Donald said that Candus, they asked about if Grandma had gone to the swimming hole with Candus and Summer that day. And, you know, Donald may not know exactly the situation altogether, but I mean, I would assume, and you know what they say about assuming, but his exact words were, Candus showed law enforcement and myself the boys, plural, and I listened to this 4 times, the boys swimming with Summer, and he was unsure if Grandma went to the swimming hole or not. The boys, insinuating that the brothers were there. So Candus showed law enforcement and David that night, because, backing up a few steps, around 8:30 that evening, I guess, well, a little bit before, David was called to come to the house. She was frantic, Candus was frantic, and David went up there. He had said he had never been there, and then later in the interview, it came out that he had been there a couple times to get food or whatever. So there was a couple little, discrepancies. But that was a little odd. So again, we saw the TikTok. The boys weren't there. Candus has not ever said that the boys were there in the interview. Donald's never said that the boys were there in the interview. But we don't know where the boys were. If Donald was at work, Grandma was at the hospital or urgent care or wherever, Mom took Summer. How old are they? I don't even know. Does anybody know how old the boys are? Were they home alone? I don't know. But I've never heard anyone say that the boys went with them to the swimming hole. And it certainly has never come out in any other interview. But word for word, Candus showed law enforcement a video of the boys and Summer swimming earlier that day at the swimming hole. And he was not sure if Grandma was there at that time. And while he was there, Candus was FaceTiming H, the 15-year-old boy. And that is when David met him for the first time. But he was not privy to their conversation. So, I don't know. I mean, at that point, they already knew that Summer was missing. I don't want to sit here and say, well, why would she take time out of, she's already called, according to Allison, Allison's timeline was after the 911 call, she called Allison and let her know. I believe it was her. Either her, yeah, it was her. It was her. So she was FaceTiming H at around 8:30 that evening, maybe a little bit later. Yeah. So that was, so the truck being found with either no license plate or a changed license plate belonging to a neighbor of the Wells family. Boys going swimming at the swimming hole. Grandma not knowing if they were there. And me wondering, honestly, where or who the boys were with, but I don't know how old they are. Maybe they are allowed to be home alone. So, yeah. Another interesting thing. So that whole lie detector test. Now, this is really, 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 really what gets me. This is why now I believe Allison. Allison claimed, remember I said yesterday, that Candus called H and said that she failed the first polygraph, right? And that was discussing it, almost as if like, shit, what was your story? That's what Allison was inferring. So in Unmasked, they asked, did Candus and Donald pass the polygraph? Did I quote him? I did. Okay. He says yes. And she goes, they did. Well, that clears things up. And he goes, well, the first polygraph showed deception. And they're quiet. And he goes, from Candus. She was very nervous and very tired and stressed. She had been interviewed for hours. Law enforcement decided to let her go home for the weekend and come back when she was well rested on Monday. She then passed with flying colors. Theresa, the main host of Unmasked, quote, that makes sense. Now, I know that puts you in a really weird predicament, so I mean, she's obviously not going to argue with him. But no, it doesn't. And again, I know I said yesterday that we're not here to make things worse. We're not here to make more speculation. We're not here to question the case. We're to only go by fact. But if that did happen, and now we've got two people saying that she failed it the first time. So, now this seems a little more truthful. So, let's go to the Chris Watts case for a second. They had him in that interrogation room for hours. They had him interviewing at his home. They had his wife's best friend at the home, trying to get him there, stressing him out, calling him every 5 seconds, saying something's wrong, something. Meanwhile, he already knows what he did, and he's like, my plan's all effed up. Finally gets there after, 2 hours, an hour, something like that. A couple days go by. He has police in and out of the house. He's got media in his yard. He's got interviews. He's got the girlfriend calling, the mistress. And then they keep him in his room this interrogation room for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours with those tactics like, well, I hope you're not a good liar, or if you are if you're not a good liar, that's great because this test is going to show you, something like that. Just playing along like they should, how they're trained. And they certainly didn't say, we're going to give you a pass. You're stressed. We're going to let you go home. We're going to go let you think about those answers. Get your story straight and come back and do it again. No effing way. No way. No way. So there's only two things that could have happened here. One, she failed. Point blank period. Failed. Or two, she passed. And if I'm wrong, God strike me dead here right now. I don't think there's any law enforcement in the entire world that is going to say, you know what, I'm giving you a free pass. You're stressed, you're tired. That does not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that anybody that's hooked up to a lie detector test is going to be stressed. And your daughter's missing. You're going to be tired. You're not going to be slept. Is she going to be well rested on Monday? No. You can say that I'm being hypocritical if you want in the comments. All you want. But I think I call BS on that all the way. I think that if Allison stated, there's one thing you can say, if two people can come up with the same story, I think there's some truth to it. I certainly don't think that there was a second polygraph. She may have told them there was going to be a second polygraph. Maybe there was going to be a second polygraph about a different part of the situation. Maybe she took, they can be long. They're hours long. So she may have failed the first part. Maybe she passed the second part. That could be. But deception was shown in the first one. Is what she, Candus, and Donald told David. So this came straight from her mouth. So what are you lying about? You know something then. So I can't imagine what the questions are, and I can't guess. But the questions are usually pretty straightforward. Is your name Candus Bly Wells? Is your daughter Summer Moon Utah Wells? Did you go to, whatever the place was, that day? Did you leave that day with such and such, Summer and such? Was the last place you saw your daughter here? Was she alive? Did you hurt your daughter? Think of the questions. YouTube any polygraph. I don't know. And someone else brought up a really, 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 really good point. And obviously they have to probably protect the children, the boys in this case. But what are they asking these boys? What are they asking these boys? I would imagine I can't see why they wouldn't have searched that swimming hole. Some say they didn't. I don't know. I really don't. So I can't say either way. The only thing I can think of is if they didn't, it's because it was definitely proven without a doubt that Summer was seen alive at the house after the swimming hole. Like, proven. But I still think they would have searched there for something. And then you have that guy who went to that swim hole and found the bag of garbage with the twisted teas and the cloth. I don't know. I don't know what to believe about that. So if you know if they searched, let me know. I can't imagine why they wouldn't, even if if she was. I mean, clearly she was in the car on the way back, so she was taken from that spot. I don't know. And again, Donald was at work. So I mean, if something did happen to her, whether it be the brothers, the mother, the grandmother, if Donald really was at work, obviously they can prove that very easily by calling his job, checking time cards, the phone call to him. I mean, now if he's covering things up, yes, again, I said that yesterday, of course. Or he just simply may want to believe his wife like we all would want to. But for some reason, just deep down, I don't. Like from the get-go, I don't think he had anything to do with it. He was at work, right? That makes sense. Crazy. It was also, what else? There was something else interesting in the comments. Oh, yeah. Has anyone seen if there was requested footage of the grocery store that they went to after the swimming hole? I haven't seen it. So that's been asked. I'm really, really curious about that as well. I'm curious. I'm very curious. I'm curious about a lot of things. They are very tight-lipped on this case. For it being, nearing a month in a couple days, there's really not a lot else. And maybe they just don't have anything to give us than what they've already told us. But there's nothing. There's nothing. You would at least think they'd be like, okay, well, here's footage. Think of the Kanika Jenkins case. I mean, they had everything. Footage of everything. The Delphi case. Footage of everything. Kiera Coles, the ones I've just mentioned. Casey Anthony. Footage. Everything. Just no footage. Nothing. Just the words of the interview of Candus and Donald and a couple interviews on YouTube and two press conferences. 2. As of this time, law enforcement is no more ground searching. Which tells me they obviously don't. I mean, so are they? If there's no more ground search, then what's left? It's been completely pulled back. They've searched over 5,000 acres. And as of last Monday, they pulled everybody back. And no more ground searching. So what's left? Just someone coming forward? That's really sad. That's really sad. Another thing I don't understand. It was asked 2 things. When can the hostesses of Unmasked get flyers so they can help distribute throughout different areas? He said, well, maybe within the next few days or week. She's been missing since June 15th. She asks, when would be the best time for? Well, we haven't done them yet. We're thinking about it, maybe in the next few days or within a week. So there's no more ground searching. There's no flyers out yet. Now I know, I think someone said that there was, and maybe I'm thinking of a different case, but that there may have been a billboard, and obviously I know her face is plastered all over social media. Why are they waiting? And who am I to judge, but my God, why are you waiting? Why are you waiting? But he did, and I quote, "We want to keep Summer's story out there. We don't want Summer's story to fade off the radar, if you will. We want to keep her fresh on people's minds." Well, then get the damn flyers out. And someone made a good point. They keep showing her with her long blonde hair. And if she was kidnapped and she has that shaved hair, I mean, people are looking for a girl with like short blonde hair, and it wouldn't grow out that quickly. And people do all types of stuff. They might have shaved it even shorter, dyed it, put a wig on her. Who knows? I mean, I don't even know what to think anymore. But where the hell is she? Where the hell is she? There is some strange man, I think, that knows a lot, that's on Facebook. I don't know why Don keeps his Facebook settings open so people can comment, because he's just got thousands of people on there either praying for him or bashing him. And it's all kidnap, traffic, kidnap. I don't know what happened. So they asked, the dogs came up. And he said, well, when I got there, the night she went missing, there was already so many people there. I guess I don't really remember. The dogs may have been occupied or preoccupied, so I don't remember if they barked at that time. But then after, when he contradicted himself and had said that he had been to the house previously, he said that yes, pulling in that driveway, the dogs. Now I guess there isn't exactly 20 dogs like Allison had said, but that yes, the dogs would bark at any car, or his car, or a car, even if they knew you coming in. And those aren't his exact words, but pretty much what he said. So, and again, not to say that if Summer was outside and someone had been watching the house, someone close to them again, and had been hiding somewhere and they'd been there, that it could have happened. I'm not saying that it could not have happened. Anything can happen. So I'm not saying just because he said that the dogs could bark, again, anything can happen. I'm just saying he did acknowledge that, yes, the dogs barked. So, just to wrap this up, this wasn't as long as the interview with Allison. It certainly wasn't as Allison was more of a gossiper. She got more into past stuff. She really didn't focus as much on Summer. David was, he seemed like a really nice man. He seemed genuinely concerned. He did not badmouth these people. He brought up a really good point, and I think people seem to forget this. A lot of people had been giving Candus and Don shit about, posting pictures of being at the park with the kids. They still are parents to other children. And what he said is, all these children are seeing day after day is law enforcement on their property, the TV, the radio, Summer, missing. And although that's their sister and they're very upset, they still are children. And in the back of their minds, just as my child, who's 5, and my oldest, it's a scary thing, but you think they're, you think your parents are going to protect you, and you just think, I think you're more optimistic as a child, right? I think you just think your parents, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't have that, but I know growing up, I would just think that my parents would make it better, and the cops are good people, and they're going to make this all go away, and, my sister's going to come back. I don't know if that's how the boys feel, but David had suggested, let's take the boys to the park, let's get their minds on other things. He had taken them to play putt-putt, to the aquarium. So this guy genuinely is trying to help not only get the boys' mind off it, and I'm not saying that Candus or Donald's mind should be off their daughter's disappearance at all, but at the same time, they still do need to be strong for their boys as well, guilty or not. And if they're guilty, time will tell, because all will come to light. And there is no doubt in my mind, all of us who sit here as armchair detectives, we think we know it all, but you know that law enforcement, FBI, TBI, whomever, knows a hell of a lot more than we do. And they're just waiting to make their move in whatever direction that may be. And let's just hope it's the right one. And let's just hope it can bring closure to the family. And God, let's just hope that whatever the case may be, that Summer will be at peace, whether it be on earth or in whatever it is that you believe in or the family believes in. At the moment, in this interview, David was asked what the family's immediate needs were. Apparently it's firewood. At this time, David would be collecting wood to keep the home warm for the winter. So that's it. They are just asking for people to send firewood. And if you have credible tips or information on the whereabouts or disappearance of Summer Moon Utah Wells, who disappeared on June 15th, 2021, please call 1-800-TBI-FIND. That's 1-800-TBI, F as in Frank, I, N as in Nancy, D as in dog. That's it, guys. I really, really encourage you to head over to the podcast Unmasked. Check out their interviews. They're interesting, to say the least. There's a lot of information in the comments. Keep an open mind. Pray for Summer. Pray for their family, whether they're guilty or not. And let's help bring Summer home. And please subscribe to my channel, my previous channel. I'm really a big part of the recovery. Well, I want to become a big part of the recovery community. True crime is my passion. I don't think that's what I'm going to focus on. However, yeah, if I can talk about cases and bring truthful information, I certainly will. And yeah, I just thought that after I heard that interview today, I wanted to bring it here to you. So, KK had a lot to say, and I hope you were here to listen. And until next time, be safe and have a great rest of your weekend. Mwah. Keep your loved ones close.